Hi, everyone. I want to introduce you to Guardians of the Flame. And today we have with us director Daniel Wolf, and we have Big Chief Brian Nelson. Um, Thank you very much for joining me today to talk about this wonderful film. I mean, it spans 17 years, and there's so much in it and to unpack, but I don't know, it really struck me as a film about freedom and about freedom through education and tradition, everything that you were talking about, and especially the Harrison family, 3 generations are doing this, and this is post Katrina, like right after until pretty much now. Was it yeah.
2019, I think we did the last shooting of it.
Okay, great. Um, so I know it started with Jonathan Demme and you picked it up after his passing. Um, just Can you just tell me a little bit about, I guess from the the film does it from the very beginning to where the museum ends up happening. I don't want to start at the end, but I'm kind of curious, how is the museum and what's going on with the programs there? Because it seems so incredibly integral into this film. And it would be great to know about, it's been what, 15 years since Katrina,
Yeah,
and then the museum and the legacy stage and everything that it's doing there. I mean, we'll start there maybe.
the museum, uh, the museum has always been tough from the very beginning, from getting it created to keeping it open, because we just don't receive the support from the community, the support from the culture, and most importantly, the support from the big money people. Um, we get funded very, very little. Um, right now, it's at a point to where we're still keeping it going. It's up and it's running. It used to be where you can just come in. We had normal business hours. Now it's by appointment only. Um, and that's because we just don't have the finances to keep it open during normal business hours. And my grandmother, Maurice Harrison, she's contemplating shutting it down, and that's pretty much where she is right now with it.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
That's
And
because of the lack of money, Brian.
lack of money, lack of resources. Uh, Most of the family, we're so busy in our own careers and things like that, and like I'm guilty of it. You know, I'm a filmmaker and a musician full time, and I don't have the space to take it on full time.
Right.
Blame me if you want. You can blame me. I'll take it.
I,
Well,
I don't think we'll blame you, but I have a lot of faith in your grandmother, Haris, that she'll figure out a way. She figured out a way to get it built, which I didn't think was
She's
ever good.
tired. She's tired. We talk about this. She is tired.
Yeah, she's 86 now.
She's closer to 90, and
Yeah.
she's tired, and the family is tired too, just not having the support where that's concerned. So it looks like we're going to shut it down. I hope not, but
well,
hell, just
maybe this,
bring the cameras back and find out. We'll do a part two.
Okay.
well, maybe this film will help for people seeing it, who
That
knows
would
who's
be
going to
great.
see it.
I don't know. I put it like this: everything has a season. It may be time
Hmm.
But the
because
efforts,
we did what we were supposed to do for the community, and at this point, you know, it's about us. At this point, if the community cannot give back, and the culture cannot give back, and most importantly, the city of New Orleans cannot give back. That's the one I'm talking about. The city of New Orleans. Just take, and don't give back. Well, then, it might sound cruel of me, harsh, but let somebody else take the mantle on, because we can't keep breaking our backs and our banks and our mental health
Right.
to save a culture and a community that really don't want to be saved. We got to save ourselves. And that's where I'm at with it.
You know,
Part of, part
I'm
of why,
sorry.
if I
Go
can
ahead.
jump in, part
Yes.
of why Jonathan and I went down right after Katrina happened was because it seemed like such a test of America's purpose. And here was this city that had great music, great traditions. Um, how was going to be rebuilt? Who was going to rebuild it, and so on. And one of the things we saw with the Harrisons and with some other people, but especially with the Harrisons, is they were going to do it themselves. They weren't going to wait around for FEMA or anybody else. They were going to figure out a way, especially to save the culture. And they managed to do it. But I think Brian's absolutely right that they kind of did it single-handedly, without with some help from other people, but mostly the family itself. And I sure understand why you'd get tired doing that. They're a family with enormous energy and spirit, but it'll get you down after a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because Sherry said that, we do it and they own it. That was an interesting quote from the film, because I feel like you should own it and they should be, contributing to, everything that they're, and they mean tourists or the city of New Orleans or whomever, to, subsidize something that they're getting such pleasure in taking pictures and films and things like that from. So it feels like that is an element of what you're talking about too.
Yeah, I mean, Brian can agree or disagree, but I think one of the things about New Orleans is that there's this incredible local culture that the city makes quite a lot of money off of. It's why people come, in part, is to hear the music, see the dancing, eat the food. But the people who are actually making it don't often benefit from that. And I think his family, Charisse especially, but Hariste as well, and others, have fought to say, wait a second, we shouldn't be giving this away. There ought to be some connection between the income and the people who are making it. And that's part of the fight, continues to be part of the fight.
And a lot of us, the culture bearers, we're working artists. We don't just do music and culture and art 24/7, and that's the only way we make our money. I wish it was like that. But for some of us, it is like that. But most of us, it's not. And the problem with New Orleans is, if you're the type of artist and culture bearer who's working, who needs to work a 9 to 5, some type of way to make money so that they can be that cultural warrior, cultural practitioner. If there's no there's no employment in New Orleans for you, then what do? You basically got to go homeless.
Mm.
There's a lot of employment in New Orleans. New Orleans is booming where that's concerned. But the employment goes to, not trying to offend nobody, but I'm gonna keep it real, white people who are not from New Orleans, who come to New Orleans to get all the great jobs, and the black people and the brown people are there just to serve them. I can attest. I graduated from the University of Southern California with an MFA in film producing, directing, and writing. And when I came back to New Orleans, because New Orleans was the Hollywood of the South, to get to work in the movie industry, I could not find work for years in New Orleans. In New Orleans.
Right.
And there's so many movies. Nobody will hire me. You know why? My skin is my sin. I'm gonna tell you what's real.
Brian,
There's
talk,
the world that somebody like me with the connection, all the people I have, all the people in the networks that I have in New Orleans, and with an MFA from the top film school in the world, I couldn't get even a PA job on a film set in New Orleans for years, to the point to where I had to leave New Orleans, find work, and I haven't been back.
Jonathan,
And
can
I'm
you,
the big chief.
Brian,
So
can you
imagine
talk?
how average Joe, how he who has no degrees, no anything like that, and he's a cab driver or a bus driver or school, but whatever. He's a waiter, whatever, and he's a culture bearer. He has a hard time. He has a hard time.
I have two questions about that, Brian. The first is your grandfather, who made you big chief, worked as a waiter, right, in New Orleans?
Yeah, yeah.
And is that part of the story in part? You know, of
Part
this,
of
a history of this happening where he was a important
no,
part of the
no,
Mardi Gras culture.
no. He was a waiter. Yes. And he waited tables. Let me tell you like this. He waited tables not because he had to, because he wanted to. My grandfather was an educated man, but he was a people person. He was a people person, and he loved to to be with the people. When we would go and travel on tour with our performances as the Guardians of the Flame, he would always leave the family and the tribe and go off on his own to the poor black neighborhoods, the urban city, to go meet with the real people and go find them and connect with them. That was his passion, connecting with people to try to make a difference and to learn new things through people and through education, through books. Um, Back then, that was pre-Katrina. That was
Yeah.
pre-Katrina. It was really Chocolate City, as Ray Nagin said. You know, and back then, black people took care of themselves and took care of each other. You could find a job, you know. But now the city has been taken away, and it's not for us anymore. And so we're the outsiders now.
So in the
Colonizers,
film, all those,
colonizers.
yeah. So out of those kids who were, learning how to, drumming and everything, in the three generations, I mean, the three, what was it? The gentleman with the drums, hold on. He called it a mixture of cultures, right? So African for the drumming, Native American for the style of the suit, and Caribbean for the beaded work from Haiti. And these are all traditions about freedom. So did any of this, I mean, are those kids who were involved in that not participating and wanting to keep this tradition going?
You mean the little kids who you saw in the
Yeah,
film? The little
yeah,
ones?
yeah.
Well, I mean, things happen. That's a tragic story in itself. One of our main ones, Dondrell, he
Yes,
was the spy boy. Yes, so yeah, he was killed as a child while he was still one of us. Because of drugs and violence. Why? Because there are no jobs in the city. People are selling drugs to make money. And what happens? We get killed because of it. There's no opportunities. The lack of a sufficient school system. What happens to those kids? Well, it's cool when you're a child, but then when you become a teenager, you get lured away by things that are cool, that you perceive as even more cool at the time, and people too, your peers. So then the culture doesn't seem that cool anymore. And a lot of them actually come back when they get older, in their 30s and 40s. But that's a weird time when people become teenagers in the tradition. Most of them pull out of it. They leave.
You became a chief as a teenager, right?
Yeah,
16.
at 16 years old.
Yeah. Were you involved a lot before then? before your
I-
grandfather?
since I was in my mama's womb.
That's what you said. Yeah.
Like, not even joking. I was born to this, man.
Right.
I've been actively masking with feathers since I was 4 years old, maybe 5.
Hmm. And the other thing I wanted to ask Brian was, I know Jonathan Demme, who was a big Oscar-winning director, had enormous respect for you. Can you say a few
He was
words
my
about how?
mentor. He was my mentor, not just as a filmmaker, but in life too. We were very close. He was like another father to me, seriously. And I'm very close to his son, Brooklyn. We're very close.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my daddy died when I was at USC, and he was a war vet, Vietnam War. He died of Agent Orange. He died for this country,
Hmm.
and you know, Jonathan took me under his wing. Taught me so much about film, but taught me even more about life. And forever, I'm gonna love him till I see him again.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that was part of why we finished this film, was that it felt like we were, I don't know, had a promise to keep. And I know Jonathan and I were talking just before he died about trying to get this film finished. Um, so I was very pleased to be able to get something out that, you know, reflects the Harrison family in some degree, I hope accurately. And more importantly, I think what you said earlier, Gigi, about the spirit of it, this feeling of we're going to survive this. There are things that are valuable that we're going to keep going, a tradition. That as the film is played across the country and overseas, it seems like that's really resonated with people. Is this idea that you can keep something going, that a family can persevere. And even as Brian says, things are tough in New Orleans. There wasn't a miracle cure that happened after Katrina, but this sort of, let's call it fighting spirit, seems to me very important.
And the fight continues, even as we're speaking right now. We are fighting to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I mean, there's so much there to unpack, because I just, from when I was watching it, I have, and I still do have such amazing respect, first of all, but that I feel like it's gonna, it's gonna keep going, and that it will, you know, um, continue to be embedded in the society, in the New Orleans neighborhoods. I love the part where on Sundays they would, parade and, kind of try to, I don't know if that still happens, but bring people in and get people excited. And
Yeah, we still do that. We still do our Sankofa Saturdays. We do
uh,
that with kids. Matter of fact, we have a new group of kids, and they're cutting a new album. They're doing a lot of good things. But like I said, yeah, it's rolling. But I just got off the phone with my mother, Sharice, and her plan is to shut it down.
The Young Guardians of the Flame?
2020. Yes, 2025 will be the last year for Young Guardians. I'm begging her to keep it open, keep it going. But it's hard because without me in town, because I can't find a job in New Orleans. If I was there, I'd say let's do it. But I'm not there because I can't. There's no money in New Orleans for
Yeah,
me.
and both.
I'm a grown man with a wife, and I got to feed my wife, and we want to have a family someday. That doesn't work for me right now. It's a shame because that's where I want to be with my family. I don't want to be away from New Orleans. I don't want to be away from my mama and my grandmother. But I can't be in New Orleans and be homeless too. So
And
you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
I was displaced because I was already displaced when Katrina happened, and now I'm displaced again. I don't mean to sound like the angry black man, but it's fucked up. because white people can come in the city and get a job with no education and no experience and get a good job
And both
because
your
of
cousins,
color of their skin, because we're seen as slaves,
mhm.
enslaved. Yeah,
Both your
yeah.
cousins, right, Brian? Both your cousins aren't living in New Orleans either. Your
No,
generation,
all three of my cousins.
right?
Victoria Donald's daughter too. She's in New York.
That's right. Yeah,
I fly back and forth between LA and Houston.
right. And
And
people
both
come back,
and the twins are in LA full time.
huh?
And Victoria's in Brooklyn.
Right. And people come back for the tradition, but they're only there temporarily. Then they got to go out elsewhere to earn a living, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly how it happens.
right.
I'm trying to get back as fast as I can because I know my mama needs me. But I mean, I ain't got nowhere, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, your mom's remarkable. Your whole family, but your mom, I mean, she comes out in this film, how she speaks about it, and it's incredibly moving. And you know she's tough, and to hear you say that she's tired, I get it.
She's tired. She's so tired.
Yeah, yeah.
She's tired. I've been filming. I go back home to film Hail to the Queens. That's another documentary I'm working on right now. Directing, and producing about the queens of the culture that stars my mother and other queens, but my mother's the main queen in it. And that's where we are right now in the storyline, where she's retiring because she's so tired. And she's shutting the young guardians down, and my grandmother is seriously contemplating, close to it, shutting down the museum. I don't know, man.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm really hoping for
We
somebody
tried.
to
We
step
tried.
in.
We tried. We gave it a good try, man. I can say that we gave it a good try.
Oh, you did more than that. You did more than that.
I don't know. It seems like you do things, and when the community doesn't seem like they, well, everybody's in my family. They have their own opinions, but I feel like the community didn't take advantage of this as much as they should have.
Mhm.
And like I say, the city too. So, but the crazy part is what we've done. So many other organizations have come behind us and picked up on what we're doing and doing it themselves and being funded. And once again, about 95% of them are run by white people from out of town who came to New Orleans. And their thing is like being the white savior to save little black kids. And they're
Right.
actually being funded big money. I ain't gonna say no names, but they know who they are. Y'all know who they are if you're local in New Orleans. They're being funded big money. And that's good that they're getting funded to do great things for the community. But you gotta understand a lot of that is going into somebody's pocket too. And they're
Yeah.
making their living off of this. And it's not as genuine as you think it is, as it appears to be.
Well, maybe those kids get exposed to, what your family has done, and then maybe that'll shift. I mean, that would be my hope, that they, even
Yeah,
though,
but I'm sorry to curse, but fuck that, pay me.
Mhm.
Seriously, seriously.
Yeah.
And my mother be screaming at me. She heard me talk like that. But you
She
know
may.
what?
She may.
Yes,
Get ready.
when she sees this, but it's for good reason. It's
Yeah.
for very. That's where I. Maybe they're not. That's not where they are with it. Maybe I don't know. Ask them. But that's where I am with it.
Well, I think that
Because
I think
I'm tired of suffering for to give to the neighborhood, the community, the culture, and not getting anything in return. And so it's just me suffering. It's like a bad relationship.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that's part of how the Mardi Gras Indian tradition grew and began, was that no one was paying any attention to that part of the population in New Orleans and elsewhere. And that it was a way, as Haris says in the movie, it was a way of people getting out their African tradition and the indigenous tradition when nobody wanted them to even dance or sing or do anything. So that
It was a civil rights movement that nobody talks about.
right. And again, you know, I think Brian's absolutely right that money has a lot to do with it. The money wasn't going to the people who were making the culture. And so, in fact, they were being prohibited from doing the culture. So they went what amounts to underground, not quite underground, but within the community in a way that, you know, still is necessary. As Brian says, it's still necessary to, you know, speak truth to power. And that's what the family did and is still doing.
Well,
You thought this was going to be an easy little interview, didn't you?
me?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I started with it. I started with the big question,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's
so
a big
glad
answer.
because I think it's so important, you know, to have that out there in your feelings, especially because this needs to be seen and people need to hear, and hopefully maybe something good will, you know, come from the communities, you know, trying to understand this more again. I don't know. I
I
really
just want to get home and get to I really would. That's what I want to do. I want to be home and working in the community to make it better, like I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm displaced. I am displaced.
Yeah.
I am displaced. I'm gonna say it again.
Since Katrina, you've been in Houston, right? A lot?
I've been in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Since Katrina, I was in Houston because I had to finish my I was an undergrad at the time. Katrina hit my first week of my senior year in college. So I had to come to Houston. I did my senior year at Texas Southern University, HBCU. And after that was my senior year was over, I went straight to LA because I got accepted to USC for grad school, film school, while I was at TSU. I've been in LA ever since. And now I come back and forth now that I graduated from SC. First I was in New Orleans, but now I go back and forth between LA and Houston.
Right.
Those are my two homes. I say those are my two homes because New Orleans is always my home, but those are my two homes that make me money, that let me live.
Right.
Yeah.
New Orleans, I feel like the stepchild that they threw away, but they keep coming back to get profit from. I feel like, you know, I'm being culturally raped.
Yeah.
I hate to use those terms, but that's how I feel.
Right.
Well,
I'm
your
just
dad,
a host.
your
I'm
dad
just a host.
didn't do.
I'm being pimped out for my culture and my art.
There was a point where your father didn't do this for like 20 years because your mom was like, hey, education, our kids are going to be educated, right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was a big sacrifice for him, right? Because you
That was-
all are. I mean, you've been,
That's Brian's grandfather, I think, not father we're talking about.
oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, my
grandfather.
grandfather,
Yes,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yes,
that's right. He stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And came back. How old were you, Brian, when your grandfather got back into the tradition of masking?
Well, I mean, ever since I was born, he was in the tradition. I remember him, you know, being in it, but but not like actually suiting up. But I think I was 5 years old, maybe 4,
Huh.
closer to 5, when he suited us up for Guardians of the Flame.
Huh. That's when he started Guardians of the Flame.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
I mean, you trying to tell people my age, bro.
And things you're talking about, what do you think your grandfather would make of it?
I think my grandfather would not be shocked.
Mhm.
Put it like I don't know, but I know he wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because you got to understand, he had been on his, he was an activist in himself for like quality education and quality health care, you know, for underserved people. So he definitely can understand what's happening now and how it got here, and he wouldn't be shocked at all.
Right.
But
Where are,
you don't
sorry.
for me, I I don't want to spend my whole life fighting. You feel me? I don't want to spend I've been fighting this fight with my family since I was 4 years old, actively. I don't want to spend my entire life fighting. What are you fighting for? To fight some more? Or are you fighting to have a better quality of life for yourself and the people you love?
Yeah. Well,
And I don't want, it's like, it's just, it's like you're a hamster on this wheel. You just keep going circles and circles, but you're not really we ain't getting nowhere, to me. Because if you're fighting and fighting and fighting for this, and the people just keep killing each other, and there still continues to be no quality education and healthcare, like I said, the violence is just incredible in the neighborhood, and people can't just get it together for themselves, you know.
yeah.
And we keep getting fed the same stuff, like where we live in the night wars. It's a food desert. Can't
Mhm.
even get a healthy meal. There are no restaurants, no close grocery stores or gas stations, and showing the hell no jobs.
Yeah.
You can't even afford an Uber or a taxi to even get to your job because it's so expensive. If you had one, if you're taking the bus, eh, you're on the bus all day in the heat, and uh, it's like a never-ending circle of poverty and pain, and there's no way out. No matter how much education you have and how much experience working you have, and maybe that's just the African American story. You know, it's like we're still enslaved, man.
Yeah, there's a moment in the film where your grandmother Harisse says, all I hear about is more prison sentences, more police, uh, new laws to crack down on crime. And she says, here we have this national problem that's been here for decades, generations. And those are the best ideas that the minds of this country can come up with. And I think that's totally true still today. It's like, let's crack down on people instead of, as Brian says, giving them an education, getting them a place to live and some medical care they can depend on.
But
And
even with the
that's,
education, still, you know, you still the color of your skin.
yeah. And your mom was a teacher for how long?
Over 30 years.
Yeah. And she got fired with all the other teachers right after Katrina.
Katrina.
And all the other teachers, meaning an awful lot of them were African American, who were suddenly
Yes.
out of work and had put in 20, 30 years in the school system. There's a lot we couldn't get to in this film.
And my mother, she doesn't receive any what do you call it, the retirement because of it.
Right.
So it's a continuous financial burden on
Yep.
us. Like I said, I understand why my mother's tired of fighting it. I understand why my grandmother's tired of fighting it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm tired too.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm too young to be tired, but I am.
You are too young to be tired. You're right about that.
Do you go out and during Mardi Gras at least? Do people, I mean, your family and those that
Yeah, we
guardians
just
of the
came off of
lands?
Mardi Gras. Yeah, like last couple months ago.
Okay,
February.
so
But we
okay,
still do that. But like I said, we like this past Mardi Gras was our last year.
okay,
Um, my mother's still coming out, but she's going to pick her own day at some point in the year. but she's not going to do Mardi Gras because she's tired of the city, you know, perpetuating that. And it's like I say, like the city's not coming back, not giving back.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And she's going to do it on her own terms, because she's tired.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
tired too. I want, you know, I have a vision for the future of this family, but I just can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like as the chief, it's a lot on me too, that my grandfather put on me, you know, to keep this thing going. And I feel like I don't have the resources and the support to fulfill his dream properly.
Yeah.
And that hurts too. Because as much as I've tried, I don't have the resources
Yeah.
to save the
Well-
culture, let alone myself.
Yeah. Well, this will be online, as you know, the film and everything, and also at the Roxy. So, you know, I'm glad that there's the exposure there. And
We appreciate it. We
yeah,
appreciate it. It's great that we're invested.
absolutely.
Now,
Appreciate
after talking about all this trauma, now I got to go call my therapist.
Oh, God. So we start.
Give him some work.
Right, the pay would be
Get a
better,
lot of work
Brian.
with me, though.
Oh, well, I truly appreciate you both joining me for this. And I did love the film, and I hope for the best for this tradition to continue in your family to, you know, get the support that they need.
Thanks again for having us.
Of
Thank
course.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Mel.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Daniel.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all.